Hey guys, Chief here. This in front of you is the entire lineup of Lone Star discs. I've got it separated from the high-speed drivers, fairway drivers, control drivers, our mid-range lineup, as well as our putt and approach. I've got these basically in order of speed and stability from overstable down to understable, and just kind of walk through it and let you know a little bit about the discs. Now, full disclosure, when it comes to some of these first discs we're going to be talking about, the 13 speeds, the beefcakes, unless it's for utility use, I don't bag a lot of 13 speeds, so I can give you only a limited amount of experience on those. I just don't have the arm speed for it. Tombstone for most people is going to be a utility disc. It's incredibly overstable, so obviously it's going to have good torque. It's flat enough so it feels good for a forehand and for a backhand. But this is definitely one of those spike hyzer type discs that you want to get for. That's the Tombstone. Really pretty disc. Feels really good in the hand. Next on the 13 speeds, this has got a little bit more glide to it, I'd say, the Seguin. I think we're now starting to get into a disc that has a little bit more utility for some people, especially if you have a big arm. But again, I'm not going to bag this because it's just too much speed for me. Shout out to AJ and Dan Carey for sending me that. And then next, the Bowie. Bowie's another one of those 13 speeds I just can't throw. It's got too much beef for me. I don't have enough arm speed to be able to get it going. It does feel good in the hand. It's got a little bit more dome, at least the ones that I've come across, than you would see with the Tombstone. But it still feels pretty good for a forehand. I would imagine this is going to be a great utility disc too. And of course you can go down in weight if you'd like to. I've got a Texas Out Crockett right here. Another 13 speed. This is probably the most manageable, possibly of the ones, but they're so comparable, especially unless you have that 65, 70 mile an hour or faster arm speed. Not a whole lot of us are going to be bagging these except for utility discs. Now, what we can start bagging though is the Bayonet. The Bayonet is a great disc. It's got a lot of glide. It's a negative 2.2. So I think it's a 13.5 negative 2.2, and it's great. I do bag one of these. It's pretty reliable in the wind. If I've got a lot of airspace and I can really crank over on it, I can get one of those long hanging shots, and I do like the Bayonet. It's a very great disc for me. I also like to use it for a reliable forehand, especially if I need like a big skip in the woods, something low that I can keep it going. I know it's going to get that stability at the very end. It's going to skip up really great. This is our flagship driver. This is the Warbird. This is a signed Chandler Kramer Warbird. This is the destroyer, if you will, of our lineup. It's a great disc. You'll see a lot of our team, especially the guys that have those arms that can handle that type of this great 12 speed. They're going to be throwing this. Now this next one is the Enterprise. This is the most unique disc that we have in our lineup in terms of high-speed drivers, and it's because it's got a bead on the end of it, which is really kind of cool. It took me a little bit to get used to the feel. I'm still kind of getting used to it. This is one of our newer discs that are out there. It's got 6 glide. It's a negative 2.2. I have not tested it into the wind yet to see just how much wind it can take, if I can still throw it in the wind on hyzer. What I will say is the few throws that I have done on it, it is a great flip up driver, and it may make the bag. We'll see. Moving on to my Death Star Growler. Growler's another great disc. I like to throw it. It is a little bit understable, but it's not incredibly understable. So it's an understable high-speed driver that you can throw a hyzer flip up. It's really fantastic, especially if you have a tailwind and you get that nose down. This thing will glide forever. It's a great disc. I really like it. Moving on to the Harrier. The Harrier is a touch more understable than the Growler, and this thing will bomb for days. So even if you don't have that really high-speed arm, you can hyzer flip this thing up. It's going to go a long way. You do need to be a little careful in the wind because it can be a little bit squirrely when you're going into a headwind. This is a great disc. A lot of you guys are going to like this. So this is our first kind of really flippy high-speed driver. Now we're going to step down to the 11 speeds. The Nimitz. The Nimitz is another good one. You have the Nimitz and the Curl, which I'll be talking about next. The Nimitz and the Curl are just, I think it's kind of a preference thing. So Most Nimitz are dome, a little bit of a pop top. They feel really good in the hand. Pretty reliable in the wind. It's a great driver. I think there's probably a group of us that really like the Nimitz, and there's a group of us that really like the curls. I'm a curl person, so I don't bag a Nimitz, but it's a good disc, and it's good for all speed arms. Moving down to the curl. This is my favorite, and this is my primary driver that I'll usually bag 2 or 3 of these things. I highly recommend it, especially if you're like me, you're on that 50-mile-an-hour arm speed. This thing is a great disc. You can trust it in the wind. It can handle torque if you do on a high. I typically don't forehand, but you can forehand this, and it'll handle it really well. It's just a great disc. If you do start to get down to the lighter weight ones, you do need to be careful with both this and the Nimitz and the wind, because once you start getting down in weight, it will not handle the wind quite as well. But I do like the disc. And then moving down to, this is an old run. This is a Lisa Ficus Tumbleweed. Tumbleweed got really popular when Chandler was throwing this in Europe, forehand rollers, and he was just throwing it up for days. This is a great roller disc. It's also a pretty good disc for a beginner. If you have slower arm speed, it's a great flip-up disc. If you've got a strong tailwind, it's a great disc. For you guys that have faster arm speed, it's going to be really more of a utility disc for you, or a roller. And then another one of the new runs that we have is the Cactus. The Cactus is a 10-speed. It's another 10-speed, just like the Tumbleweed was. This disc is fantastic. It's my favorite disc, new disc into my bag. I love to do hydro flip shots with this. It will roll over on you in the wind, so you got to be careful. It will roll over on you if you have a little bit faster arm speed. But I found that in the woods, this is particularly fantastic, and it's becoming one of my favorite discs. This is a great disc. And that closes out the high-speed drivers that we have. So I like to move on to now into our fairway drivers. First up in the fairway drivers is our huge beefcake, which is the Chupacabra. The Chupacabra is incredibly overstable. It's one of those discs that it's a utility disc for most of us. You're not going to throw it as a primary driver. You're not going to throw it as a primary unless you just need a lot of beef. It does get a little bit of skip as long as you keep it low, but it does not have a lot of glide, so it's going to get to the ground a little bit quicker, but it is a good disc. So moving on to the Mad Cat. So if you have a pretty big arm, the Mad Cat's going to be a great fairway driver for you. I use it primarily as a forehand. Especially if I need to kind of get around that hard dog leg, or if I need to do a hard dog leg to the left on a backhand. It's a very overstable, dependable disc. This one came out of Freddie's bag. All right, and then moving on to the spur. The spur for my arm speed, I don't see too much of a difference between the spur and the Mad Cat. Spur might have a touch more glide. But comment below. You may have the opposite effect on it. I do typically bag both of these, but to be honest with you, it's just because of feel. And one of them is a little bit flattered, so the one that I actually bag is, the one I bag. Here's a spur that I do. This spur is the one that used to be in Connor's bag, but I do bag both of these for different reasons. Moving on to the Wrangler. So I like the Wrangler. It's a great disc. It's got a little bit more. It's a little bit more understable than the first two that I've showed you, or the first three here. It does have pretty good glide, and it's incredibly reliable, and it will fight the wind for you. Good for forehand and backhand. The Lariat. Lariat is a 9-speed, stable driver. It's listed as a 9.5 -1/1. I gotta tell you, the stability at the very end is still pretty dependable. You can depend on this disc pretty well. It's a great flying disc. I would say it's the exact same as a Frio, except in a 9-speed instead of 7-speed, which we'll get to the Frio here soon. But because I have a preference to the Frio, I typically don't bag the Lariat. But I've never had a problem throwing them. It's just those two discs don't do enough different things for me. So I just bag the Frio over the Lariat. But if you like a slightly wider rim, you may like the Lariat better. Another one of the new discs in our lineup is the Desperado. The Desperado is incredibly understable. This is the last 9-speed that I'll be talking about. It's a 9.5 minus 2.1, and I would say that's pretty accurate in terms of numbers. This thing is incredibly understable, so it's great for not torquing on it, but if you need to get a shot and you need a little bit of flip up and late flip up, this will give it to you. They're a little bit domey. I'm not sure how, I haven't tried on a roller. I haven't had it long enough to know. I've got 5 of these. I'll have to go out and maybe do some field work with them, and I'll let you know how that goes. Okay, moving on to our first 8-speed is the Dos Equis. Dos Equis is an overstable 8-speed. It's a great disc. I know a lot of people who really like it. It's very reliable. Again, though, you know, if you're going to have this, I bag a Brazos, which is a 7-speed overstable. The 7-speed understable for me, the Brazos is a little bit flatter, and I have a tendency to throw my overstable disc on forehands, and I just like that feel better. But the Dos Equis is a great disc. Conversely to that is the Dome. The Dome is incredibly understable, but it is a phenomenal disc, especially if you're trying to get that long turnover on a line. I would not trust it on a forehand. It's incredibly understable. It'll give me a utility disc for a lot of you guys out there. Now, moving on to the best disc in the lineup for me, well, between this and the Texas Ranger, is the Frio. This is a Freddie Mason Frio. It's very stable. I'm just now getting my Frio to, which I'm throwing it in the Alpha Plastic, and it's just now starting to become a little bit too flippy for me, but it's held stability for about 2 years, which I really like. So you get in the premium plastic in either Alpha or Bravo or especially Founders, it's going to hold on to that stability for a little bit longer. This personally is one of my favorite discs. I love throwing it in the woods. I can even drive with it. It's a great disc. Its counterpart, its overstable counterpart, is the Brazos. This is an overstable Frio, is basically what it is. So the Brazos is 7.5 minus 0.3, and it's exactly that. It's got pretty good glide. It's going to push on hyzer the entire time. Incredibly reliable. You can trust it in the wind, and that is the Brazos, not the Brazos, just to let you know. It's the Brazos. So I'm from Central Texas. I'll just let you know. All right, moving on. This is the Trinity. The Trinity is technically listed as a little bit more overstable than the Frio. I have found that it is not. It is a more understable version of the Frio. It's like a broken in Frio, if you will. But it is a great disc. I do enjoy this disc. It's come in and out of my bag. Now that my primary Frio is a little bit flippier, I don't need a Trinity in there. It's a good disc. So Guadalupe. Guadalupe is another one of those understable, but has a more solid finish than you would think. It's great. It can be a little bit squirrely. Once you start getting into understability, you're starting to deal with a little bit of concern about the wind and it handling the wind. And that's going to be a concern with all understable discs. I bombed this about 315 feet a couple weeks ago, and I don't bag one. I cannot believe how far it went. I was shocked. It's a great disc, though. Understable, good flip up, not bad. Now we're going to start getting into the really understable stuff here. We have the Mockingbird, and I'm going to go ahead and throw up the Rio Grande. So these two are pretty much the same disc. I don't know the full backstory. I think the original mold for the Mockingbird was damaged, and the Rio Grande came in and replaced it. They both fly somewhat similarly. So it's just kind of going to be a matter of branding and discs, and there's probably going to be some subtle differences, but for the most part, these discs are pretty similar. They're similar in feel, and the flights of them are both similar too. I do like the Rio Grande. And then lastly, that we have in our fairway drivers is the Tex. The Tex is a very understable disc. It's great in the woods. If you have younger, older players, you need that hyzer flip up shot. someone who's new, this is going to be a great disc for you. It feels really good in the hand. I think it's going to be really great, especially for our young players. To get one of these in our young players' hands, it's going to feel more comfortable, and they're going to get pretty good distance out of that. Let's move on to the mid-range, which is the smallest lineup that we have. And I'll start with the Beefcake, which is the Walker. The Walker is a very overstable 5-speed, doesn't have a whole lot of glide, great for forehand, great for backhand, incredibly reliable in the wind. You can trust this thing. This thing is more reliable than any one of the other discs that we're going to be talking about in this lineup. Great 5-speed. One of the OGs is the Midi. The Midi is a great overstable disc. It feels fantastic in the hand, incredibly reliable, great woods disc. Yeah, I bag one. I love it. Houston is also a very overstable, I shouldn't say that, it's an overstable mid-range disc. Its flight is similar to that of the Midi. I don't think it has quite as much glide. It's got a different hand feel to it, but it still feels pretty good. I do bag Houston also. Moving on to the Texas Ranger. Texas Ranger is by far my favorite mid-range we have out there. It's a great disc. It flies straight. It's got a reliable finish in the end. Got a lot of glide. It's basically our version of a Buzz or a Hex or a MD3. It's a great disc. I think everyone can throw this. Everyone should bag it. Freddie has great success with his. It's a phenomenal disc. One of the newer discs in our lineup is the Chuck. The Chuck is kind of on the thread of it's a replacement for the Gorilla Chongo. It's understable. It's not going to dump over completely, but it's going to hold that line. If you throw it either on highs or flat, it's still going to carry over with that understability. But it's going to glide forever. It's a great disc. It's in my bag. I absolutely love this disc. If you've been with the team a long time and maybe used to throw a Hooligan Flip, it's very similar to a Hooligan Flip as well. This is a great disc. I recommend it for everybody, all arm speeds. It's going to be a good utility disc. Bearcat. Bearcat and the Chuck have somewhat similar stability. I would say that the Chuck is probably a little bit more understable, but I don't know. I could be wrong about that. Let me know. I haven't thrown enough of them side by side to know. Bearcat is a great understable disc though. It's good for hydro flip-ups for me. It's great in the woods. It feels phenomenal for a forehand as well, but only for touch. You can't torque on this too much. Again, when you start getting to the understable side of things, you got to be careful. And then closing out our mid-ranges is the Lone Wolf. The Lone Wolf is our most understable mid-range that we have. It will turn over on you. I like to throw it on a very, very steep hyzer. So like I specifically will have this in my bag if I'm doing an uphill shot and I've got a narrow drive and I've got to get it through. I throw a little bit more accurately on that hyzer. It's going to hit that gap and I know it's going to flip up, especially if it's going uphill. And yeah, so it's a good disc. And that closes out the basic throwers that we have for the high speed, the fairways, and the mid-range. And then we'll save the putters for the next video. Thanks, guys. Take care.